There are special people in our lives, and on Christmas, that couldn't be any closer to the truth. I remember all those times at Christmas when I visited my grandparents with my family and opened presents which were near their fireplace. Grandparents are very special people, aren't they? And I think the children in this story would agree. Here is a story of a family who had a very special Christmas day. It's part of A Christmas Story, taken from the book Dear Santa Claus by Fanny E. Ostrander. Kate and Dick had a good many pets. There were Frisk and Ponto and Fuss and another little dog called Fly. There was the pony Fleet, and the newest pet of all was a dear little colt that Kate's papa had given to her for her very own because the pony she rode really belonged to Dick. This colt she had named Fairy, and she took great care of it. Fly and Fairy were good friends, and they had a funny way of looking at each other that made the children laugh. Then the baby that they all loved lived here. Her name was May, and she was Kate's sister. She was a sweet little thing, just beginning to walk and to talk. She could say chickie quite plainly, and she liked to toddle out and watch the little girls feed the chickens. But I can't begin to tell you all the good times the children had that summer. They were happy all the time, and Grandma said they were so good that it was really no trouble at all to have them there. But at last, one Saturday evening, Papa, who always came out from the city to spend Sunday with them, said they must start for home the next Monday. They did want to stay longer, but Papa laughed and said, "Christmas is coming now, you know, and Santa Claus couldn't bring things way out here as easy as he could get them to you in town." Then the children began to think of Christmas and to tease Grandpa and Grandma to come and spend it with them. And of course, Papa and Mama teased too. So at last they promised, and the children said goodbye to their pets and to Kate and May and Dick and went away shouting, "Goodbye, Grandma! Now remember, you promised!" After the children reached home, they talked of Grandma's nearly all the time when they were not talking of Christmas. And Bessie wrote a letter to Santa Claus asking him to be sure and bring a pair of his nicest gold-bowed spectacles for Grandma because she had lost her old ones, and not to forget a gold-headed cane for Grandpa. At last, Christmas Eve came, and Grandma and Grandpa were there, and the children hung up their stockings. And Bessie said that Grandma and Grandpa must be sure and hang up theirs too. Then, after they had gone to bed, the smaller children whispered for a long time about Santa Claus and listened to hear his sleigh bells on the roof.
"I don't see how he can get down the chimney,"
whispered Bessie.
"You know he's so fat in all his pictures." "Maybe he takes off his coat,"
whispered Clara.
"Then he wouldn't be quite so big."
But she didn't see how he could get down the chimney either. Once or twice, they were sure they had heard him on the roof, and they covered up their heads so he wouldn't think they were peeping. And at last, they went to sleep before they knew it. Willie and Tom were just as anxious as the little girls, and whispered just as much, and they all dreamed of Santa Claus. Bessie and Clara were the first ones up. They shouted with delight when they looked in their stockings. There was a dear little dolly in each stocking, a dolly with real hair and eyes that opened and shut, and the dollies were dressed very prettily. They were too large to go into the stockings, so they just stood in them, looking as though they were ready to jump down. Willie found the funniest jumping jack in his stocking, and Tom pulled a flute out of his. He had everybody awake in no time after that. Grace was happy when she looked in her stocking. There was a little plush box in it, and in the box was a lovely gold watch, while Harry found just what he wanted too, a pair of skates. But Grandma and Grandpa were surprised when they discovered the spectacles and the cane.
Who in the world could have told Santa what we wanted most?
Said Grandma. Grandpa said he couldn't understand it either, and then Bessie had to tell the secret. She ran up to each of them and whispered,
I wrote to him myself.
Then how they kissed her. All day long, the library was kept closed. Not a child was allowed to peep in. But what fun they had all day, and what a Christmas dinner with a plum pudding as big as a pumpkin. In the evening, the library door was opened, and there was the prettiest Christmas tree, all blazing with candles and hung with pretty things, while piled around it were books and toys and everything that everybody wanted most. And just think of it! There, lying in front of the tree and looking as happy as the children themselves, was a great big noble dog who got up and came to meet them as they trooped in.
Ooh, ooh, ooh!
Cried Bessie, bending to pat his head.
What's your name, you great big darling? Ooh, ooh! Whose is he, Papa?
Ask Santa Claus, said Papa, and sure enough, Santa Claus stepped out from behind the tree. His name is on the collar, said Santa Claus. Then the children all rushed for him, for they knew it was Grandpa dressed up like Santa Claus. Afterwards, Bessie spelled out the dog's name, Carlo, C-A-R-L-O, on his collar, and her own name on a card which was tied to it. And she was the happiest little girl in the world. But everyone else was happy too, and they all said it was the very merriest Christmas they had ever seen. And Clara and Bessie dreamed that Santa Claus told them he himself had never had so much fun before. If you enjoy great stories like this one, please click the like button and follow Tristan Storytime on social media.